Welcome to my channel. What if the life you secretly dream about is only one brave decision away, but you keep delaying that decision because you are waiting to feel ready? Imagine waking tomorrow and realizing the person who could have changed everything was you, but you chose comfort instead of courage. Stay with me, because this story is about a person who spent years building everyone else's future while quietly abandoning their own, until one painful evening forced them to choose remain a spectator, or finally become the author of their life. There was once a young man named Daniel who looked successful from the outside. He helped his family, supported his friends, answered every message, and always had advice for people who felt lost. Whenever someone achieved a goal, Daniel celebrated loudly. Yet when the room became quiet, he faced a truth he never admitted. His own dream was fading. He wanted to speak English confidently, build an online business, travel, and create work that gave him freedom. But every morning he told himself, later. Later became next week, next month, and eventually another year. One night, after helping a friend prepare for an important interview, Daniel returned home exhausted. He opened his notebook and found a sentence he had written years earlier: "I will build a life I am proud of." He stared at it for several minutes. Then came the first turning point. He realized he was not lacking a dream. He was lacking a decision. He took a blank page and wrote exactly what he wanted. He wanted confidence, useful skills, better health, financial freedom, and time for people he loved. For the first time, his dream had a shape. The next morning, Daniel made a second turning point. Instead of trying to change everything, he chose one promise: 30 minutes of focused learning every day. He practiced English, recorded his voice, and accepted that his first attempts would sound imperfect. At first, nobody noticed. That silence almost defeated him. Then came the third turning point. A friend laughed at his practice and said, "Why are you doing this? You will probably quit." Daniel felt embarrassed, but that night he understood something important. People who do not see your destination cannot choose your direction. He stopped explaining his dream to everyone. He protected it with action. Soon he noticed another problem. His phone was stealing hours from his day. He would open it for 5 minutes and disappear for 2 hours. The fourth turning point came when he deleted several distracting apps and placed his phone away during his learning time. Suddenly, 30 minutes felt powerful. Weeks passed, and Daniel began learning a new skill as well. He watched free lessons, practiced small projects, and studied how other creators worked. He did not have expensive equipment or perfect knowledge, but he had something more valuable: consistency. Then life tested him. His first online project failed. Nobody bought it. Daniel felt foolish and wanted to stop. This became the fifth turning point. Instead of calling failure proof that he was not talented, he treated it as information. He asked what went wrong, improved the offer, and tried again. The second attempt was better. It was still small, but it earned his first payment. Daniel looked at that payment for a long time. It was not enough to change his life, but it changed his belief. He had proof that effort could become opportunity. Yet another lesson waited for him. Daniel had always said yes to everyone. He answered every request, attended every unnecessary gathering, and gave his best hours away. One evening, he missed an important deadline because he had spent the entire afternoon solving someone else's problem. The sixth turning point arrived. He learned to say, "I cannot do that today." It felt uncomfortable, but his own life finally had space. As his focus grew, his confidence grew with it. He started speaking English without hiding every mistake. He uploaded his first useful video. The response was small, and one comment criticized him. Old Daniel would have deleted everything. New Daniel kept going. That was the seventh turning point. He stopped measuring his worth through strangers' opinions. He understood that courage does not mean feeling no fear. It means moving while fear is present. Months later, Daniel had built a simple routine. He learned, worked, exercised, saved money, and rested without guilt. His life was still imperfect, but it finally belonged to him. Then, an unexpected message arrived from a small company that had seen his work. They wanted to discuss a project. Daniel smiled because the opportunity had appeared only after hundreds of quiet actions nobody had seen, and he knew the story was just beginning. But the hardest choice was still waiting ahead. The company meeting changed Daniel's week. He arrived nervous, prepared, and ready to learn. The manager asked him about his work, his goals, and the reason he had started. Daniel could have pretended to know everything, but instead, he told the truth. He was still learning. That honesty became the eighth turning point. The manager respected his answer and offered him a small contract. Daniel accepted, but on the way home, he felt a strange fear. What if he failed? What if people discovered he was not as capable as they thought? He almost returned the contract. Then he remembered how many times fear had already made decisions for him. He opened his notebook and wrote, "Fear can come with me, but it cannot drive me." The next morning, he began the project. It was difficult. He worked slowly, made mistakes, asked questions, corrected them, and continued. Every problem taught him something. Every correction made him stronger. After 3 weeks, he delivered the work. The client loved it and offered another project. Daniel was excited, but he also noticed something dangerous. Success was beginning to make him careless. He started sleeping late, skipping exercise, and working through meals. He told himself that sacrifice was necessary. Then his body forced him to stop. One morning, he woke exhausted and could barely concentrate. That became the ninth turning point. He understood that a dream built by destroying his health was not a dream worth having. He changed his routine. He protected his sleep, moved his body, ate better, and created clear working hours. His progress became slower for a few days, but his mind became sharper. Daniel discovered that balance was not weakness, it was fuel. Meanwhile, his income slowly increased. Instead of spending everything to prove he was successful, he created an emergency fund. He learned about saving, responsible investing, and the difference between something that builds value and something that only looks impressive. His friends began noticing the change. One invited him to buy an expensive phone on credit. Another told him that successful people should show luxury. Daniel smiled and declined. That was the 10th turning point. He stopped buying things to impress people and started buying time, skills, and stability. His life became quieter, but his confidence became louder. Then came a painful test. A close friend asked Daniel for money and promised to return it quickly. Daniel wanted to help, but the amount was larger than he could comfortably give. For years, he had believed saying no made him selfish. This time, he explained his limits and offered another kind of help. His friend became angry and accused him of changing. Daniel went home feeling guilty. The 11th turning point arrived when he realized that kindness without boundaries can become a prison. He could care about people without sacrificing his future. He could support others without abandoning himself. That night, Daniel wrote a new rule. I will help from strength, not from fear. As months passed, his small business became more stable. But something unexpected happened. People started asking him how he had changed. They wanted his routine, his learning methods, and his advice. Daniel remembered the lonely years when he had searched for someone to guide him. Instead of pretending to be an expert, he shared what had worked for him and what had failed. This became the 12th turning point. Daniel stopped thinking only about what he could gain and started thinking about what he could give. He created simple lessons online and helped beginners avoid the mistakes he had made. His audience slowly grew. One message especially touched him. A young viewer wrote, I was ready to quit, but your story made me try one more day. Daniel read that sentence twice. He realized his journey was becoming useful beyond his own life. Still, success brought comparison. He saw younger creators earning more, traveling more, and growing faster. For a moment, Daniel felt behind again. He almost changed his entire plan just to copy them. Then he remembered his own destination. The 13th turning point arrived when he stopped comparing his chapter with someone else's finished page. He returned to his goals, measured his progress against his past, and continued building. Slowly, he understood that a peaceful life could be more valuable than an impressive life. A year after writing that first clear plan, Daniel opened the same notebook. Some goals were complete, others had changed. A few were still waiting. But the biggest difference was inside him. He no longer needed permission to begin. He trusted himself because he had kept promises to himself. Yet one final challenge was approaching, and this time it would not come from failure, money, or other people. It would come from an opportunity that could change everything. The opportunity arrived on an ordinary Tuesday morning. Daniel received an email from a larger company that had discovered his online work. They wanted him to lead a major project, and the payment was more than he had ever earned from one contract. His heart raced as he read the message. This was the kind of opportunity he had imagined while staring at the ceiling at night. But there was a problem. The project required almost all of his time for several months, and accepting it could destroy the routine that had given him peace. Daniel felt trapped between two dreams, earning more money and protecting the life he had built. He remembered his old mindset. More money must mean more success. Then he remembered everything he had learned. Money was a tool, not the destination. This became the 14th turning point. Instead of asking, "How much will I earn?" Daniel asked, "What kind of life will this decision create?" He studied the contract, asked questions, and negotiated a smaller workload with a longer deadline. To his surprise, the company agreed. Daniel discovered that sometimes you do not need to choose between success and peace. You need to communicate clearly and create better choices. He accepted the project without giving away his entire life. The work was challenging. Daniel had systems. He planned his week, protected his mornings, limited distractions, and kept learning. He also refused to spend every new payment immediately. Part of his income supported his needs, part went toward savings, and part toward improving his skills and business. His money began working with him instead of controlling him. One evening, while walking home, Daniel saw an old friend sitting outside a cafe. They started talking, and the friend asked, "When did you become so different?" Daniel laughed. "I did not become different overnight. I just stopped betraying myself every day." The sentence surprised even him. He realized that transformation had never been one giant event. It had been hundreds of small decisions. Saying no, waking early, practicing when nobody watched, saving when others spent, trying again after failure, resting when his body needed it, choosing better people, keeping promises. Each choice looked tiny, but together they created a different life. The project eventually ended. Daniel earned enough to give himself breathing room, but the money was not the greatest reward. The greatest reward was freedom. He could choose what work to accept. He could spend time with family. He could keep building without panic. For the first time, he understood what wealth really meant. It was not simply having more, it was having choices. But Daniel knew another danger was waiting. Success can become another prison when you become addicted to proving yourself. He saw people working constantly, buying expensive things, and posting every achievement online. Then he remembered why he started. He did not want strangers to admire his life. He wanted to enjoy it. So he simplified again. He focused on useful work, meaningful relationships, health, learning, and peace. His audience did not disappear. One day, a teenager named Amir sent Daniel a message. Amir said he felt lost. Daniel replied with one question: "What is one thing you can improve this week?" Amir answered, "My English." Daniel told him to practice 20 minutes every day and send one recording each week. 3 months later, his confidence had changed. Daniel smiled because he recognized his younger self in that message. He understood that real success was becoming someone who could help others rise. Years earlier, Daniel had wanted applause. Now he wanted impact. That shift changed everything. He began teaching more openly, sharing failures instead of only victories, and reminding people that progress is usually invisible before it becomes obvious. He stopped needing either reaction. His attention returned to the work. Meanwhile, Daniel continued building multiple sources of income. He kept his business, created educational products, and invested carefully for the future. He wanted a strong foundation. When one income source became slow, another helped. When one project ended, another could begin. This gave him stability without forcing him to work every waking hour. One quiet evening, Daniel returned to the place where he had written his first dream. He opened the old notebook again. The sentence was still there. I will build a life I am proud of. He smiled because the sentence no longer felt like a wish. It had become a direction. Daniel finally understood that a dream life was not a perfect life. It was a life where your choices matched your values. It was waking up knowing why you were working. It was having enough discipline to protect your future and enough courage to enjoy your present. And there was one final lesson waiting for him today. The final lesson was simple, but it changed the way Daniel saw his entire journey. He realized that becoming the person you want to be is not a finish line. It is a daily choice. Every morning gives you another chance to decide who you will become. You may not control where you started, what happened yesterday, or how other people treat you, but you can control what you do next. Daniel once believed he needed confidence before taking action. Now he understood that action creates confidence. He once believed he needed perfect conditions before beginning. Now he knew that beginning creates better conditions. He once believed successful people had fewer problems. Now he understood that successful people simply learned how to face problems without allowing them to decide their future. This realization became the 15th turning point. Daniel stopped waiting for life to become easier and started becoming stronger. He looked at his mistakes differently. A failed project was not a dead end. It was a lesson. A rejected idea was not proof that he was worthless. It was direction. A difficult season was not punishment. It was training. Even loneliness had taught him how to enjoy his own company. Even criticism had taught him how to trust his own values. Daniel finally understood that every difficult moment could either become a wall or a stepping stone. The choice was his. From that day forward, he created a simple rule. Whenever something went wrong, he would ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" That question changed his life. Instead of complaining, he searched for lessons. Instead of blaming others, he searched for responsibility. Instead of asking why everything was happening against him, he asked how he could respond with strength. His life did not become perfect. Bills still appeared. Plans still failed. People still disappointed him. Some mornings he still felt tired and uncertain, but now uncertainty did not control him. He had learned how to move forward while carrying it. One afternoon, Daniel received a message from someone who had followed his journey for years. The person wrote, "I used to think my dream was impossible. Then I watched you keep going when things were difficult. I started taking small steps too. I am not where I want to be yet, but I am no longer standing still." Daniel closed his eyes and smiled. That message reminded him why the journey mattered. He had once wanted to escape his ordinary life. Now he wanted to use his ordinary days well. He understood that extraordinary lives are often built through ordinary actions repeated for a long time. You do not need to change everything tonight. You need to change one choice. You need to protect 1 hour. You need to practice one skill. You need to say one honest no. You need to take one brave step. Then repeat it tomorrow. Daniel's story became a reminder that dreams do not always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes they arrive quietly, through a skill you practice when nobody watches, a habit you repeat when motivation disappears, a boundary you create when people expect unlimited access to you, or a decision to begin again after failure. The world may not notice your preparation, but preparation is never wasted. One day, the door opens, and you are ready because you spent years becoming ready. So, if you are listening right now and wondering whether you are too late, remember, Daniel, you are not too late. You are not too weak. You are not disqualified because your beginning was difficult. Your past can explain you, but it does not have to control you. You can learn. You can rebuild. You can start again. You can become disciplined even if you have been inconsistent. You can become confident even if you have been afraid. You can become financially wiser even if you made poor choices before. You can improve your English even if you struggle with simple sentences today. You can create meaningful work even if nobody knows your name. Your first step does not need to impress anyone. It only needs to be real. And please remember this: do not build a dream life only to prove someone wrong. Build it because you want a life that feels honest to you. Do not work only for applause. Build skills that give you freedom. Do not spend your life comparing your speed with someone else's. Your journey has its own timing. Do not wait for permission. Do not wait for perfect confidence. Do not wait for tomorrow to become the person you can begin becoming today. Close this video with one decision. Choose the dream you have been delaying. Write it down. Make it specific. Break it into small steps. Remove one distraction. Protect your time. Learn something useful. Take care of your body. Save what you can. Build value. Help people without abandoning yourself. When you fall, return. When you fail, learn. When fear says you cannot do it, answer with action. Daniel's greatest achievement was becoming someone he could trust. That is the real victory. Your next chapter begins with one decision. Make it today. Your dream does not need a version of you. It needs the honest version willing to begin. Keep learning, growing, building, and believing when results are slow. Your story is being written. Make the next page worth remembering.